The Edgbaston goby is a very rare fish. A recent survey discovered a previously unknown population thriving in an artificial wetland flowing from an artesian bore.
I was talking to David just before that. He said, whatever you do, don't find anything down there. And I said, oh, don't worry, I won't find anything. And then, I had to eat a bit of humble pie and go back up to the house and say, well, I've actually found an endangered species on your place. I think he was a little bit proud even of the fact that they've got, Queensland's second most endangered fish on their place.
I was a bit surprised, because these drains, even though they've been flowing for close on 120 years, I guess, at different times they've been cleaned out, they've changed course, and I was a bit surprised to see them here,
Desert Channels Queensland commissioned a pilot study in mid-2014 under Australian Government environment funding. Ecological assessment was performed at a number of bore drain sites in the Aramac district in the northeast corner of the Lake Eyre Basin.
The original aim of the survey was to do with mapping the extent of the pest fish Gambusia. This place did look different when I drove in. It's sandy country, it's not necessarily downs. The bore drains themselves have been allowed to sort of form wetlands. Probably took like a good hour for me to find the first one, but I just looked in the net and I thought that's not a Gambusia, because they're quite distinctive, and I was pretty excited.
Permanent water, whether in the form of springs, water holes or bore drains, is both rare and valuable within this landscape.
My parents that took the place or bought the property, they would never have stayed here without this flowing water. It was the main attraction. My father, his attitude to the whole thing was he actually liked the drains and the creek being full of water, so that it kept all his bird life and that type of thing alive in dry times. For 100 years, that was the best way to distribute the water, was through drains and creeks systems, and was a great benefit to livestock.
Prior to the pilot study, little was known about which permanent waters harboured feral or threatened species, and virtually no work had been completed on bore drains.
This is called Myriophyllum artesian. A little bit like the fish, it's what we call a spring endemic, so it's only from Great Artesian Basin springs, and yet we're finding it here in this bore drain. There's very few sources of permanent water here. So there's the springs, which are about 30 kilometres away, and the only way that these plants and animals can get here is on a big flood. It would have been one of the big wet periods over the last 100 years. Edgbaston goby are a really interesting little critter. The thing is, they can't swim very well. They sit on the bottom and wait for things to happen. They don't actually have a swim bladder like most fish, so they can't stay buoyant. They have to sit on the bottom. The other thing that's really interesting about them is that they lay their eggs and then the male literally guards them until hatching. So, they actually do exhibit a fair bit of parental control. That might give them a bit of an advantage because, otherwise the Gambusia would probably come and eat all the eggs. The biggest conservation concern we have is the redfin blueye, which is really only known from now 3 natural populations in little springs and 6 populations that I've kind of moved to other areas and built barriers and so on. The idea of having a population of that species and this one that's not centralised up there, that's where you end up with this idea of an insurance population. So what we could do is build an artificial wetland, if you like, and put a barrier around it, and we could do trials on whether we can actually keep Gambusia out, and that, if it worked, then that would be a place where we could do conservation work and try to maintain populations of endangered. It's all about stopping these animals going extinct, really.
Thanks to the wheels, there is hope that future generations will continue to find this unique, bottom-dwelling artesian water fish on Ravenswood.
The fact that the gobies are living here and doing okay is testament to their management, so it's all his work, not mine. I just found it,
I think it'll change the way we use this little paddock anyway, where they are. I'm not sure that there is any of those fish in the other paddocks on the other drain systems, but we certainly will look after this a bit for them, yeah.